Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by the lovely Dr. Foojan Zeine. She is an international speaker, author, and psychotherapist with a doctorate in clinical psychology and a licensed marriage and family therapist. She holds a graduate certificate in human behavior from Harvard Extension School and specializes in intimate relationships and addictive behaviors. With extensive experience treating depression, anxiety, trauma, and domestic violence, Dr. Zeine is recognized as a leading expert in online therapy and has published widely in the fields of psychology and human behavior. She is the originator of the awareness integration theory, which is a multimodality psychological and educational approach designed to reduce depression and anxiety while enhancing self-esteem and self-confidence. Dr. Zeine is the founder of the International Awareness Integration Institute, which provides virtual psychotherapy, multimodality services, training, and certification for psychotherapists, coaches, and educators in AIT. She is also the co-founder of the Foojan app, which is a global platform offering AI-based mental awareness tools to the public, featuring an AI-trained chatbot named Mira. She serves as a lecturer, professor at California State University, Long Beach, and University Paris Cité, and is the author and co-author of 7 books and 25 peer-reviewed journal articles. Dr. Zeine also hosts the podcast Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan, and is a frequent keynote speaker at major universities, including Harvard, MIT, CLA, USC, and UCSB. So a big welcome to the show, Dr. Foojan.
So nice to be with you, Catherine. Thank you for the invite.
And what an amazing set of accolades, and how you've really channeled this, I want to say, passion of inspiring people to improve their self-esteem and their self-confidence into an amazing program. And there's so much I want to unpack there. I feel the first question I want to ask is, where did you see kind of the gap where typical delivery models weren't actually addressing those underlying components?
I think going and learning, some of the models were very clearly a cognitive model. Like you would think if you would change your thoughts, you would change your feelings and behaviors. Other models started looking at feelings, emotions, and how, as we regulate and we listen to them and we change our lives. And then others behavioral, and some other people with the body. So as I learned each one of these modalities, and I saw that they don't need to be separate, we could use all of them, all of the ways that, automatically we operate. We think constantly, we feel automatically all the time. We're constantly behaving. So it's not like there's one door that goes to the other one. It's almost like all doors needed to be open at the same time. But the other piece was that I used to do, and I still do, a lot of very deep, almost like personality deconstruction and reconstruction of people and trauma work that I've done for many years. My clients came in, we worked hard, they cried hard, but they felt like something was releasing, but they kept coming back year after year, having the same belief systems. And although they released a little bit of the emotional charge, but the belief systems were not leaving. So that became the question mark for me, where if we set up all of our belief systems, if we're the one who are creating all of these inner reality and storyline that we create, we have to be able to dismantle them. And that's how kind of the work began, searching into how do we go back to the memories? How do we look at the trauma? How do we let go of the belief system by itself and not just challenge it and, constantly have a fight with it? And then also what I noticed was, because I was also doing coaching in the coaching environment, you didn't care about the past and you just went, gung ho to the future. Yay, yay, yay. Just create the goal and move forward. But the past kept creeping in and sabotaging us. And in the world of psychotherapy, we did a lot of work in the past. It almost got shorted out when, we were going to look at the future and the vision. So then I also brought those together. So that's why it's a multimodality of whatever I learned, the best of the theories out there, applications out there. And, I brought the best of them together and put it in a 6-phase module, which now you can go very deep and very brief. You can, become aware of your today and, your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and the results you create. You can clean up the past, and then you can envision the future and create all the goals and motivation and structures in order to move forward. And it's like a 6-phase model that it really encompasses also every area of your life, because we live in relationships, right? So we operate in relationships. So the model also goes into every area of relatedness that we have, like your job, your career, your finances, your intimate relationship, your body, your relationship with people, family, all of it. And therefore, it really encompasses, creates a holistic level of looking at human behavior.
Yeah, and I love that you took all the aspects that you could see were working and mushed them all together to make something new. Because, as a previously an allied health therapist myself, that's what I always found worked the best for your clients, right? Because it was never a one size fits all. And you could always pull in those different aspects from those different models and teaching modalities that you've learned and go, well, this works the best and this works the best. And then you've created this beautiful program, which is really taking into your whole body awareness, like, and your whole life awareness. I want to say more than your body. It's more like your whole life, because like you said, people get stuck in the past or they get stuck in the future and they forget that there needs to be some sort of bridge between the two.
Definitely, yes. And you're absolutely right. You know, for example, you work with people who have possibly like attention deficit, or you work with people who are in the spectrum autism. Well, behaviorism really works for them much better than possibly the emotional door that we go in. But there are other people which they're extensive in the way that they feel intensely and express intensely, and that has to be regulated and modulated. So if we have a theory and an intervention that is flexible enough, it has a structure, but it's flexible enough to work with what, the angle of the client, and then bring the other pieces in. So then you have this all encompassing concept.
Yeah, definitely. And that is such an important point because, I have worked a lot with children with autism spectrum disorder, and they can't have they actually need the routine and the structure. And then at other times they actually need to be taught the flexibility as well, because so often they would go to school and their teacher would be away and it would be meltdown central because, their life was so rigid. And so often we end up like that, whether you're neurotypical or not. It's like you end up in this rigidity structure where you just find yourself doing the same routine and you end up living someone else's dream sometimes too, because you just think that that's what it should be because your dreams are too hard because you can't see how to get there.
Exactly. Another component that it was very important, that a lot of the concepts of like depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, low self-efficiency, all of those has come a lot with the way we experience our own powerlessness. We're powerless against the past, we're powerless against the future, we're powerless, in all levels. I'm not good enough and I'm powerless to create anything out of myself. So part of the design of the theory and intervention is also for us to be able to create responsibility and accountability for the way we think and for the way we feel and for the way we behave and the results that we create and co-create with the world. And this kind of gives an empowering level of being the accountable person that I have. Some say so, not all, but some say so in how I operate, and takes away from that kind of a victim mentality, which really, really puts us in an underdog level. It puts us in a place of powerless all the time. So that is why also in many of the research that we've done globally, it really has shown that it minimizes because we clear the past and we take responsibility for how we interpret, all of those, and we collected the data and held on to the story and how to, we clean that so it minimizes depression. You kind of gain some level of control or the notion of that I'm powerful because I have some skills that I can take care of myself and protect myself in the future. You kind of minimize the anxiety. And because we're working with all of these negative belief systems and dismantling them and, going based on our own life and looking at the best of us and what we created and who we are, it raises self-esteem and self-confidence.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense because so often our limiting beliefs come from those negative experiences and those traumatic experiences. And sometimes, especially as a child, like when they're definitely those early childhood memories, it can be something so little that you wouldn't even think is such a triggering response, right? Like for me, I know I had one incident where I asked my mum to cut my sandwich a different way because I liked it a rectangle, not a triangle. And then she was having a bad morning and she went, "Well, do it yourself then." And my little self said, "Well, I'm just going to have to make my sandwiches from now on." So I did, because I believed that then I had to do everything myself and I couldn't ask for what I wanted. And once I unpacked that, I went, "Oh, okay. We need to actually learn that it's okay to ask for help again, and we ask for what we want." And
Yeah.
it's such a simple thing. And it's not putting anything bad on my mum or anything like that. It's just my little 5-year-old self. That's how I interpreted it, and that's how I saw the world from that lens.
Yes. And when we take responsibility that the way that we perceive the world is really the way we perceive the world. And if I
Yeah.
capture that, then I can also kind of change my perception. I can change my outlook and don't have to be suffering and being in misery all the time. That I can create a fulfilling life for myself because I'm changing my belief system and the way that I look at the world in a way that is useful for me and people around me. Because if I'm happier, if I'm fulfilled, obviously I create a better ambiance with everyone who's around me. And if I'm always miserable, probably making everybody else miserable around me too.
100%. And it's that analogy of, I like to use the cup being overflowing. You fill your own cup up and then everyone else can have what goes over. But it's so true. Those people in your life, and everyone listening will be like, "Yes." I bet you they'll be nodding along with us. That they're always going to be the negative Nancy of the party, and you do not want to go near them because you do not want to get sucked into the complaint negative cycle. And you're like, "No, I want to have a good time. I don't want to sit here and complain about X, Y, and Z that you don't want to do anything about." And it's so true what you said. When you're in that negative energy, it does bring everyone else down. And there's so many studies too showing that, workplaces, the happier you are, the more productive you are. Like, all those things are all showing up now in the world, and why it is important to look after yourself, because you do have an impact more than you realize on those around you.
Very much. And what's interesting is also that sometimes we have learned new behaviors, new skills in one environment and in one way, in one domain of our life, but we haven't transferred it to the other one. I'm sure many people who are listening possibly learn how to do professional conversation when they went to work, how to deal with difficult people, or how to regulate your emotion when you're at your company because nobody will accept you as you're having a tantrum. And then, we learn that skill over there, but then we come home and we have our tantrum, and we come home and we forget how to deal with the difficult people. We forget the professional conversations. It's almost like that skill only happens between 9 to 5 in this concept, and it can't be transferred somewhere else. And I think it's
Mm.
important when we kind of do this work with all of the areas of our life, because we could see what behavior, what skills works with humanity overall. Whenever I do it, it works. And therefore, I can own it and use it other places too. Versus, one area of my relationship is, and I'm sure you've worked with a lot of couples, right? So we sit and work with couples and they have really difficulty communicating. And then I ask, like, what do you do? And both of them are professional. And like, if you had this type of an argument at work, how would you handle it? And they will give me this amazing way that they would handle. I'm like, and how come you're not bringing those skills to your, to your home with your mate and having the same kind of, negotiation skills or conflict resolution skills? So it's so important to be able to see where are our skills and where did we learn it and how can I make that a little bit of a more of a general idea in my whole life versus having all of these fragmented,
Specialized.
compartmentalized, areas of life.
Yeah, I feel that's such an important thing because so often we forget things. So for me, all my clients' parents used to go, "You're just so patient." And then I get home and have no patience left for my own little one because I like almost maximized it out during the day. And then my husband was like, "How can you be so patient at work and not at home?" I said, "Oh, thank you for saying that." And I just have to, like you said, switch and generalize that skill to, and even I'm still practicing patience with life, like, okay, I've done all the work. Now I just got to wait for it to keep coming. It's not going to happen like that, and it's exactly like you said. It's almost like we get stuck in a schema, right? And we can't take that skill out of where we've learned it and see how it can come across those multiple aspects of life. And unfortunately, usually it's our loved ones and closest to us that cop the brunt of that when we forget to apply those skills in other areas. Yeah.
Pretty much. And one of the things that we did, because we did one of the research in university in for the classes in Cal State Long Beach, and two of my colleagues were professor there at that time. I had written the book like Reset, and they said, "Oh, give us this book, and we're just going to use it in our class." And I said, "Let's do something better. Actually, let's do these modules where we could do the work in a guided journaling level, and we could deal with each one of the areas of life every week as a homework." And they accepted, and we did this research and we did a pre-test and a post-test and all of that. And even no therapist, no coach, just guided journaling, we still found like 68% minimization of depression and anxiety. It was like, wow, that's
Amazing.
exceptional to be able to get that. And that led itself, I'm like, oh, if the self-help works, why can't we put it in an app? And that's where the Foojan app got created, where we have 31 areas of your life. And then you can go in and start it with a guided journaling of, these different phases about different life areas. And then you have like meditation in it. You have, like the guided even meditation. So you go through the guided journaling and then the guided meditation. And as people were going through this, we're like, okay, now I know this is what I do, which is good. This is what I don't know. Now I need skills. Now what do I do? So then that's when we decided to also add the AI chatbot, Mira, to the app so that as people are going along with it, they have questions and they ask the Mira question and she will give from is trained in the awareness integration therapy, and it's created the safety around it because a lot of you hear horror stories right now about people using ChatGPT and other I don't want to name it, just other AI chatbots that with mental health issues which are becoming dangerous. So we wanted to make sure that it is designed definitely for this and keeps you safe and gives you skills. So it's designed to give you skills. So you'll say, I just had a fight with my daughter and, what do I do? And then so, I will write, gives you a couple questions, like pondering questions so you can become aware of yourself. And they'll give you like 8 or 10 of skill building, actually intervention. And it's been life-changing for a lot of people. If they go into therapy, they use this in the middle of the week. They'll do their journaling, they'll do their homework, and then they'll like take the depth of what they need to work on with their therapist. Or if they're not going to therapy, at least they have some companion that gives them some sort of a skill and gives them the awareness plus, skill building skills.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful because that was my next question, how the app came about. So thank you for preempting that. I love it. But I feel it's really important how you brought up too about the safety around AI, because I know that's a big thing floating around at the moment where people are using ChatGPT as their therapist or as their doctor or anything like that, and I like how you've designed Mira to give those reflective questions so people can go deeper. But it's almost like Mira's doing all the grunt work, if you will, to like get people more in a mindset so that when they, or more open to when then they go to therapy or when they're getting that additional help, that they aren't sitting there sifting through all the crap that you have to get through before you get to the core issue.
Exactly. I remember my husband gone to a barber, and the barber was just sharing, that he had gotten divorced and he had a teenage son right now. And because of the divorce, the son lives with his wife, and he felt kind of estranged with his son, and he was very sad because he thought he only had a couple more years to be able to have that connection. And he kind of alluded, because it was their fight between him and his ex-wife, that kind of held the son back. So my husband is like, "Do you want to ask Mira?" He says, "Okay." So he asked Mira, and Mira gave him, a couple of questions to really like reflect. How do you talk? Well, can you look at yourself and how you're communicating? Give him a couple of these questions so he could actually ponder and become aware of himself. And then gave him 8 ways of communicating. Fast forward about a month later, when my husband goes back and says, "What's going on?" And he said, "Oh my God, you can't." Honestly, he had tears in his eyes. He says, "You can't believe it. First of all, I've begun to create a very good relationship with my ex-wife with our communication. And for the first time, my son actually wanted to come to me, and we went on, have go to the restaurant, and really had a heartfelt. And we decided that we're going to do this every week. And he was just like experiencing, just followed what Mira was sharing as far as suggestions. So it's really cool that, people who don't have access to therapy, or they don't believe in therapy or whatever, they have at least a tool that kind of gives them a very, very quick and safe skill building concept.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that example so much because, first of all, so much like from working with children for so long, half the time when the parents split up, it caused such big dramas. And I remember having this one client, and the parents wouldn't go in the same room together. So even trying to address this child's special needs was nearly impossible because they wouldn't even get on board and get in the same room together. And at that point, I wish I had Mira to send them both to. But it got to the point they would each call me and give me, and then spend 20 minutes like bagging out the other person. And in the end, I said to them, I said, "You must have loved each other enough at one point because you have 2 kids together. So get over that, remember that, and get in the room." Just like, and so they did. And the school's like, "What did you do?" And I said, I told them exactly how it was. I said it was getting beyond ridiculous, it was wasting all of our time. The kids weren't getting the help they needed to, but they sat on the very far as way as they could, on the table, but at least we got them in the same room together. But at the same time, to have Mira there to help with that would have been very, very useful because, often I get it when parents can't stay together for whatever reasons, and sometimes they're better apart. But for you need some sort of communication, like you said, so that you can keep that relationship with the child and not bring them into it too.
Exactly. Also, the model is structured, but it is flexible enough that it can be adapted to anything that has to do with human. So, in the relationship for parenting, for example, we wrote the book Intentional Parenting, that, each parent first gets to understand and become aware of themselves and become responsible for how they were parented, where did they get their ideas, how they can create those skills for and then get to understand how to relate to their kids. Then, for couples. So this also adapts to couples, obviously, where each member of the couple also, again, takes responsibility for who they are, what they brought, their own background, and how they, saw their parents' couplehood in a sense and brought that in. And then we also, in the latest book we wrote, Awaken Leadership, we took this in companies because 8 to 10 hours of our time is at work, and usually with a lot of people work in companies. And these companies, you have, this, right? That the dynamic that we have with our family, we kind of like take it right into a company. Like if we had a tough father or a mother and we were reactive to it, then we're going to have that reaction to our bosses and, authority. If we had siblings, right? Like if we have siblings and sibling rivalry and all of that, we kind of like bring that into with our coworkers. And if you were like, I was raised as an only child. And so like I didn't have anybody to compete with. So I had no idea what competition meant. And when I first went into corporate world, I'm like, what's this? Why are people competing? Like we should be all loving each other. How come there's a competition? I would take offense to it. And then other people were like thriving, they're thriving that there's competition and I gotta win. So you can see like this dynamic coming to work, and people, if they're aware of how each one of them are really like reacting to all of these things, and there's such a subconscious reactions that consistently happen. So we took the model from, how the employees can work on themselves, and how the mid-management and the C-level, and how you could kind of like run the culture of the company from this concept of awareness, and then, the responsibility and to support each other versus, subconscious patterns that are constantly happening. So it's also flexible enough to be taken into different ways that human beings relate with each other.
Yeah, and I feel that's so powerful because, like you said, we're circling back to what you were saying, like a lot of people learn these skills and don't know how to transfer it across these different realms of their life or different aspects of their life, and to be able to do that from so many different elements. And exactly like you said, where do you spend most of your time? Family, work, and hanging out with friends. If you can have the same, happy, I want to say, not even happiness, peace level, and like you said, go to work and not feel like you're going to be competing with everyone around you and work together as a team. That is going to make a more cohesive work environment than everyone out to get everyone to see who can get ahead of anybody else.
Exactly. And then, we take it. I mean, whatever happens at work, then we bring it home. So, it's like a two-way flush. Whatever happens at home, we take it to work, and then we bring it right back in. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I think it's more about how you can be. I think I should be responsible to make myself happy and fulfilled. And I think this is a tool that can give you that.
Which is amazing. I love it so much. And I wanted to ask, as we start to finish our time together, Dr. Foojan, is I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
I think the concept of, I would say, for us to become responsible for our next generation. So if we heal ourselves, then we will be more loving and caring toward the next generation. Because you and I have both worked a lot with multi-generational trauma. And we keep recreating because we're not aware, because we didn't take care of ourselves. We kind of like transfer it, right? Like addiction is multi-generational issue. A lot of the mental conditions become that. Poverty becomes that. Violence becomes that. So I think if each person really takes care of themselves and becomes responsible for healing themselves and bettering themselves, automatically we'll have, we'll transfer this love and care to the next generation.
That's so beautiful. That's a really beautiful vision. So thank you for sharing that. And if people want to find the app, or if they want to come find your books or come work with you, how can they find you?
The app is on Apple and Android, Google Play. So Apple Store and Google Play. The website for the app is foojan.com, FOOJAN.com, if they just want to kind of look at, what it entails. My website is my name, foojanzeine.com, and you can get all my books there. If you want to know about awareness integration, awarenessintegration.com. And at this time, it's all information. And within a couple of months, it's turning also into a virtual clinic where people who are trained, psychotherapists and coaches, which are trained in this model across the globe, are available virtually to be able to offer information and offer therapy or coaching to everyone. And for therapists and coaches who are interested in getting trained, we can also offer them certification training. So they can just contact me and I'll lead them to those links.
Amazing. And I'll make sure to put everything in the show notes as well. But thank you so much, Dr. Foojan, for this conversation and for everything you've created. It's really beautiful and amazing. And I love it so much.
Thank you. And I really thank all the therapists and coaches who are out there that chose this field, because I think we started to come in this field because we wanted to heal ourselves and then offer it to whomever wants to have it. So I thank you for doing that.
Thank you. And so well said. 100% agree. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.